In the lush valleys of Kikuyu land, where emerald hills rolled into misty horizons, nestled the village of Mowini. At its heart stood the grand palace of King Jelani, its ivory towers reaching towards the heavens. But our tale begins not in those opulent halls, but in a humble mud hut on the outskirts of the village. Here lived Ada, a girl of 16 whose laughter could coax flowers to bloom. Her eyes sparkled like dewdrops in the morning sun, and her kindness touched all who knew her. Ada spent her days helping her parents tend their small farm, finding joy in the simplest of tasks. But fate, ever the trickster, had other plans for young Ada. One fateful night, as the moon hung full and heavy in the sky, tragedy struck. Ada's parents, who had gone to sleep as usual, never woke. The village elders spoke of a peaceful passing. But for Ada, it was as if the very ground beneath her feet had crumbled away. Grief wrapped around her like a heavy cloak, muffling the world's colors and sounds. Days blurred into weeks, and the once vibrant girl became a shadow of herself, wandering her empty home like a lost spirit. It was in this darkness that a tiny spark of hope appeared. Ada's dearest friend, Kesi, refused to let her wallow in despair. With eyes shining like polished amber, Kesi burst into Ada's hut one sun-drenched afternoon. "Ada," she exclaimed, grasping her friend's hands. "The royal palace seeks new maidens to serve. We must try our luck. It could be the fresh start you need." At first, Ada hesitated. The palace seemed a world apart, a place of legends and whispered secrets. But Kesi's enthusiasm was as infectious as the beat of a drum, and slowly, a flicker of curiosity ignited in Ada's heart. The next dawn saw the two girls joining a throng of hopefuls at the palace gates. The selection process was rigorous, testing their skills in cooking, cleaning, and the intricate dance of palace etiquette. To everyone's amazement, Ada excelled. Her quiet grace and keen eye for detail set her apart from the rest. When the final choices were made, both Ada and Kesi found themselves among the chosen few. As Ada donned the soft linen dress of a palace maiden, a mixture of excitement and trepidation fluttered in her chest. The palace was a far cry from her simple village life, its halls echoing with whispered intrigue and gleaming with gold and precious stones. The first moon cycle was a whirlwind of new experiences. Ada learned to serve spiced tea with the grace of a gazelle, to address nobles with titles that rolled off the tongue like honey, and to navigate the labyrinth of palace corridors without losing her way. She worked tirelessly, determined to prove her worth in this new world. Her dedication did not go unnoticed. Queen Safia, a woman of regal bearing and keen intellect, took a liking to Ada. The queen appreciated her quiet efficiency and unwaveringly honest nature. Before the next new moon, Ada was elevated to the coveted position of the queen's personal handmaiden, but with great favor comes great envy. Other maidens, particularly one named Eshi, resented Ada's swift rise. Eshi, who had served in the palace for years, believed she deserved the queen's favor more than this village newcomer. One day, consumed by jealousy, Eshi hatched a devious plan. She snuck into Ada's quarters and planted one of the queen's prized golden combs among Ada's meager possessions. Then, she whispered to the queen that some of her treasures had gone missing. Fate, however, had other designs. Kesi, who had been nearby, witnessed Eshi's treachery. Swift as a gazelle, she informed Ada of what had transpired. Together, they approached the queen, returning the comb and recounting Eshi's deceit. Queen Safia, impressed by Ada's honesty and Kesi's loyalty, banished Eshi from the palace. From that day forward, Ada's position seemed more secure than ever. But even in the sunniest savannah, shadows lurk. Ada was about to learn this harsh truth in the cruelest of ways. One evening, as she delivered a tray of sweetmeats to King Jelani's chambers, tragedy struck. The king, overcome by a moment of weakness, forced himself upon Ada. Shocked and terrified, she found herself trapped in a nightmare. The king swore her to secrecy, his threats hanging over her like a storm cloud. Ada's world shattered. She felt alone and trapped, unable to share her pain with anyone, not even Kesi. As days turned to weeks, her once cheerful demeanor faded like mist in the morning sun. She became withdrawn, her eyes losing their characteristic sparkle. Kesi noticed the change in her friend and tried to uncover the cause of her sadness. But Ada, bound by fear and the king's threats, couldn't bring herself to reveal the truth. Then fate dealt another cruel blow. Ada discovered she was with child. The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning, filling her with a tempest of emotions: fear, confusion, and a fierce, protective love for the tiny life growing within her. Unable to bear the weight of her secret any longer, Ada confided in Kesi. Her friend was shocked and filled with righteous anger, but she stood firmly by Ada's side, vowing to help her through the difficult times ahead. However, Their hushed conversation was overheard by another maiden, who, seeking favor, reported it to the queen. Queen Safia, blinded by jealousy and betrayal, confronted Ada in a fury. In a moment of panic, Ada admitted to her condition. The queen, her face contorted with rage, struck Ada across the cheek. "You treacherous snake," she hissed. "How dare you betray me like this?" Before Ada could explain or defend herself, the queen had her locked away in a small, dark room. There, she forced Ada to drink a bitter concoction, hoping to end the pregnancy, but the spirits of Ada's ancestors watched over her and her unborn child. Despite the queen's efforts, the pregnancy continued. As days passed, the queen's anger turned to fear. She knew that if the king discovered her actions, her own position would be in jeopardy. Driven by desperation, the queen began to plot Ada's demise. But once again, Kessie came to her friend's rescue. Overhearing the queen's sinister plans, Kessie knew she had to act swiftly to save Ada and her unborn child. Under the cover of night, Kessie snuck into Ada's prison. "We must leave now," she whispered urgently. "The queen plans to silence you forever." With trembling hands, Kessie helped Ada gather what little she had. Then, using a secret passage she had discovered during her time in the palace, Kessie led Ada out into the velvet darkness of the African night. At the edge of the village, the two friends shared a tearful goodbye. "Go, Ada," Kessie said, pressing a small pouch of coins into her friend's hand. "Find a new life far from here. Keep yourself and your child safe." With a heavy heart, Ada embraced her friend one last time. Then, summoning all her courage, she set off into the unknown, one hand protectively cradling her growing belly. Ada's journey was long and arduous. She traveled for many days, hitching rides on ox carts and sleeping beneath the stars. Finally, she arrived in a bustling town called Tumbuka, far from the reach of Queen Safia and King Jelani. Exhausted and alone, Ada found shelter in an abandoned hut on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was dry and relatively safe. There, using the coins Kessie had given her, Ada began to rebuild her life. Each day, Ada would go to the marketplace, buying a small stock of fruits and vegetables which she would then sell from a little stall. It was hard work, especially as her pregnancy progressed, but Ada was determined to survive and provide for her child. One sweltering afternoon, as Ada struggled with her heavy baskets of produce, a kind voice caught her attention. "Let me help you with that," the voice said. The man introduced himself as Jabari. He owned a small shop nearby and had noticed Ada's daily struggle. From that day on, Jabari became Ada's guardian angel. He offered her a place to rest in his shop during the hottest part of the day and always made sure she had enough to eat. As Ada's time drew near, Jabari's concern for her grew. He couldn't bear the thought of her giving birth alone in that ramshackle hut. So, he made her an offer she couldn't refuse. "Come stay with me," he said. "I have a spare room. You and your baby will be safe there." Ada, touched by Jabari's kindness, gratefully accepted. And it was fortunate that she did, for just a week later, she went into labor. With Jabari by her side, Ada gave birth to a beautiful baby boy whom she named Tau, meaning lion in the local tongue. As Tau grew, so did the bond between Ada and Jabari. They became like a family, with Jabari doting on Tau as if he were his own son. For the first time since leaving Mawini, Ada felt truly happy and safe. But happiness, as Ada had learned, can be as fleeting as morning mist. One fateful day, as Ada was tending her market stall, a runaway cart struck her down. By the time Jabari arrived, cradling little Tau in his arms, Ada had already departed for the land of her ancestors. Heartbroken but determined, Jabari vowed to raise Tau as his own. He poured all his love and care into the boy, telling him stories of his brave and beautiful mother. As Tau grew, he blossomed into a kind, intelligent young man, the very image of Ada. Years passed, and Tau completed his studies with honors. As he stood proudly in his graduation robes, Jabari knew it was time to reveal the truth. With a heavy heart, he sat Tau down and told him the story of his birth, of his royal father, and of the palace in Mawini. Tau was stunned by the revelation, but his love for Jabari, the man who had raised him, never wavered. "You are my father in every way that matters," Tau said, embracing Jabari tightly. Together, they decided to journey back to Mawini to uncover the truth about Tau's heritage. As they approached the towering gates of the palace, both felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. What would they find? How would King Jelani react? But that, dear friends, is a tale for another day. For now, let us remember Ada, a young woman who faced adversity with courage, whose love for her child gave her strength to overcome the greatest of challenges. Her story reminds us that even in our darkest hours, hope can bloom like a flower in the desert. and that a true family is born not just of blood, but of love and sacrifice.